Chapter 5. Summoned by Fear. In late 1966, the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, began seeing a nightmare. Over the course of a year, more than 100 residents reported encounters with a winged humanoid creature they eventually dubbed Mothman. Witnesses described a tall, gray figure, about 6 or 7 feet in height, with expansive bat-like wings and glowing red eyes that filled them with paralyzing terror. It was spotted lurking in the TNT area, an old WQ munition site overgrown with woods, swooping over cars, perching on rooftops, and haunting the backroads after dark. These sightings weren't just a case of 1 or 2 isolated cranks. They came from many independent witnesses, including respected locals, couples together, even a group of gravediggers at work. People who had no reason to invent a red-eyed monster all kept describing the same thing. Each new report fed local panic and fascination. The newspapers ran screaming headlines. Crowds gathered at night on the outskirts of town, scanning the skies in a mix of thrill and dread, hoping to glimpse the creature, yet half afraid they actually would. Point Pleasant became a community under siege by its own collective nightmare. Then, in December 1967, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge, a major suspension bridge over the Ohio River connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour, sending cars and Christmas shoppers plummeting into the icy waters. 46 people lost their lives. The town was devastated. In the aftermath, some residents couldn't shake a dreadful connection. Mothman had been appearing in the lead-up to this disaster, almost as an omen or warning. In local lore, Mothman became forever linked to the Silver Bridge collapse, a harbinger of doom. Psychologists might later say this was a kind of coping mechanism. The anxious townsfolk, primed by a year of eerie sightings, retroactively fit the random tragedy into their narrative of a monster. In other words, they found meaning by blaming or framing Mothman as the portent. But a stranger interpretation emerged as well, one that aligns with our thesis. What if Mothman appeared because of the collective emotional energy in Point Pleasant? What if hundreds of eyes straining in the dark and dozens of minds teetering between dread and wonder somehow called forth the very thing they feared? It's a disturbing idea that the town, in a sense, dreamed Mothman into being, or attracted something that was hovering at the edges of reality, drawn by their focus. Perhaps the community needed a face for their inarticulate anxieties, and so a phantom appeared to carry those fears. This is speculative, even unsettling territory, I know. But hold it in mind, because similar patterns have recurred. Point Pleasant's story was not a one-off. Just as the GCP data suggested a link between shared emotion and physical effects on a global scale, these localized monster flaps suggest a link between shared fear and manifested apparitions. For example, consider the legend of the Jersey Devil. In January 1909, long before social media or even radio, newspapers across New Jersey and Pennsylvania spread reports of a diabolical creature on the loose. Over the course of one frenzied week, hundreds of people across dozens of towns claimed to see a winged, hoofed monster with a blood-curdling scream flying over rooftops and leaping over fences. Authorities were flooded with reports. Schools closed in panic. Posses of armed citizens took to the Pine Barrens to hunt the beast. The more people looked, the more they found, or at least thought they found. Hoof prints appeared in snow on rooftops. A trolley car full of passengers swore the creature attacked them. A Navy commander even fired a cannon at a flying thing that matched the devil's description. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the flap ended. The Jersey Devil vanished as mysteriously as it had arrived, never to terrorize in that fashion again, though. Whispers and campfire tales kept it alive in lore. Skeptics at the time and since have labeled the Jersey Devil outbreak a classic case of mass hysteria amplified by the media of the day. Indeed, it showcases how mass attention can shape perception. Primed by lurid newspaper stories and a rich local folklore, the devil was said to be the cursed 13th child of Mother Leeds from colonial times. People saw what they were expecting to see. Yet even a skeptic must concede that for that week in 1909, the Jersey Devil was real to those communities. Real enough that tangible evidence was reported and taken seriously. The creature left tracks. Multiple upstanding citizens concurred on details. Communal actions were undertaken. School closures, armed patrols, as if a real threat was afoot. In effect, belief bootstrapped an impossible being into reality, even if fleetingly. It's as if the collective energy and expectation bent reality just enough to let something flicker through. What these cases suggest is a phenomenon we might term emotional manifestation. When a group of people share a strong fear or fascination, it creates an invisible field of sorts, a psychological atmosphere that might interact with physical reality in ways we don't fully understand. The Global Consciousness Project hinted at this on a worldwide scale with subtle data. Monster flaps like Mothman and the Jersey Devil hint at it on a local scale with dramatic, spooky narratives. In both, mass attention is the engine. In both, it's as though an emotional charge builds up and seeks expression. Sometimes that expression is statistical blips in a machine. Sometimes it's a red-eyed creature at the edge of town. I should note, too, that in Point Pleasant people genuinely suffered from fear. Some were traumatized by what they saw. After the Silver Bridge tragedy, the Mothman flap subsided, almost as if the community's collective angst had expended itself in those twin climaxes of monster sighting and catastrophe. Mothman wasn't seen again after 1967. at least not in Point Pleasant. Decades later, John Keel's book and a Hollywood film reignited interest, and now the town even hosts an annual Mothman festival, blurring the line between sincere legend and tongue-in-cheek tourism. Today, Mothman is both a cultural mascot and, occasionally, again, a reported apparition. The story refuses to fully die, but it changed from a living terror to a folklore echo and festival spectacle. The pattern of these flaps often repeats elsewhere. A flurry of intense sightings, then a dissipation. The why of that cycle is a mystery. Does the phenomenon feed on attention and then vanish when sated? Or do communities, after reaching a peak of fear or excitement, collectively let go of the manifestation, causing it to disappear? Some paranormal researchers have likened these episodes to dreams of a whole community, a nightmare that eventually exhausts itself. Indeed, across different times and places, we see the same cycle. Mothman's Year of Terror, the Jersey Devil's week-long rampage, the Beast of Bray Road sightings in 1980s Wisconsin, the Chupacabra Panic in Puerto Rico in the 1990s, where dozens of farmers found livestock drained of blood and blamed a fanged creature. Each of these flaps burned hot for a period, and then inexplicably fizzled out. Perhaps the frenzy dies when collective fear reaches a climax and then finds closure or catharsis. A tragedy happens, a scapegoat is identified, a hoax is exposed, etc. Or perhaps it's as simple as media attention moving on, and without the oxygen of focus, the manifestation can't sustain itself. Either way, the cycle speaks to a possible unconscious process. When people stop paying attention or stop needing the phenomenon, it fades. In Point Pleasant, after the bridge disaster gave a grim meaning to their year of sightings, it was as if the story had concluded and the apparition had no reason to stay. A few decades later, once the tale was safely part of folklore, new sightings popped up again, but now tinged with a different energy. Curiosity and tourism more than panic. It's as though the mood of the observers matters just as much as the fact of observing. Before we leave Mothman, it's worth mentioning that the concept of a paranormal omen or warning creature didn't end with 1960s West Virginia. Eerily similar stories cropped up elsewhere. Near Antarctica, Japanese research crews reported sightings of a pale, humanoid figure surfacing from the icy water, later dubbed the Ningen, a creature as featureless and silent as the void it emerged from. There were also reports from Freiburg, Germany in 1978, of miners encountering a strange winged figure, the so-called Freiburg Shrieker, right before a mining disaster in which the mine's entrance collapsed. Those miners, oddly, were not inside at the time because the creature's appearance had scared them off. These accounts are hard to verify and often drift into the realm of legend, but it's intriguing that multiple unconnected incidents link winged cryptids to impending catastrophe. Could it be that in places of intense dread, our collective psyche projects a figure to embody the looming disaster? Or, if one wants to get truly exotic, perhaps some intelligence or force in reality responds to our fear by sending a sign, a dark angel, as it were, whose presence is both a creation of and a reaction to our psychic distress. It's a murky line between the psychology of foreshadowing and the metaphysics of manifesting, but either way, the Mothman archetype has taken root in our cultural imagination as the harbinger, a creature that arrives in times of collective anxiety or crisis. This has been an excerpt from Quantum Cryptids by Sam Elliott. Check out Elliott's new book, Paranormal Imprints, for an in-depth look into how some ghosts leave a mark on reality. Paranormal Imprints by Sam Elliott is available now.